Rugby, rugby, and rugby. That's all I can say. I'm so happy the Autumn Nation series is back. Probably the same as you as well. But I want to go through all the results for this round, starting with maybe not everyone's favorite games, but the first game of the round for the international series, and that was Georgia versus USA. Brilliant game in my opinion. I think it came down to the wire, to be honest. If you watch the game, the USA was in it the whole time. Maybe a bit of rust, for Georgia. Maybe, USA got that warm-up game last week. It really showed that Georgia was rusty. They should really be putting the USA away. I mean, USA finished second to bottom in the Pacific Nations Cup, where even Canada beat them. So to only beat them by 13 points is a little bit of I guess, not the result they wanted. But at the end of the day, they still put them away. They still did what they need to do. But it was literally 36 points to 30 until the 79th minute, where they scored a try in the last, pretty much last play of the game. Georgia scored a try from Apratsitse, scoring a try and kind of putting it to bed. So it showed that the USA were in it. I'm happy to see that. But as a Georgian fan, you'd be worried, I think, especially if you want a challenge to get into the round of 16 this next Rugby World Cup, you can't be having performances like that. You just can't. So they need to be more clinical, need to be better. And they got a big game coming up this week as well. So they need to lift at the end of the day. But I think they will. I think they will smash Canada this week. I think they're going to be much better from it. Another home game. But we'll go through just the results. And I'll put some links in the bottom if you want to skip to the games that you want to watch, that you want to hear about, then just hit that below. The scores will be on the left here as well. Now, the next game, this is the game that I watched live as well. Obviously, a little bit late here in Australia, but well worth it, in my opinion. Was Japan versus Ireland. To me, brilliant game in the end. Japan actually... The score does not reflect the game, in my honest opinion. The score does not reflect the game. 41 points to 10 to the Irish. 6 tries to 1. I think it was a runaway at the end. That's what I think it was. It's the same as the Boks versus Japan as well. I mean, the Boks were always in charge, and then ran away that last 20 minutes. I mean, putting a lot of tries on. The same thing happened here against Ireland. So 17 points to 10 going into halftime. I guess as an Irish supporter, your butt's kind of clenching a little bit, but they showed what they made of at the end. I mean, Japan messed up a lot of opportunities. We know this. They had a lot of opportunities to score, but just didn't take them. Same as they did against Boks. They had a couple opportunities, but didn't take them. But you can see the score going into the last 20 minutes was 22 points to 10. So, I mean, in my head, halftime, I guess obviously we knew the end result, what it will be, but just by how much. But it kind of reminds me of that 2019 Rugby World Cup where Japan upset Ireland, right? If you remember correctly. But yeah, last 20 minutes, I mean, McCarthy scoring with 14 minutes to go, making it 27 points to 10. Then McCarthy scoring again, Prendergast converting, O'Brien scoring with 5 minutes to go, making it 41 points to 10 final score. I put Ireland to win by 33. I just knew it'll be a little bit closer than I guess the projections, but at halftime I was like, man, they're in this. Japan are in this, but just could not finish, not clinical enough, just not finishing the game up. Same as they did against the Boks, just that last 20 minutes, they don't seem to have the fitness. They don't seem to have the depth to be able to bring on those substitutions and kind of push. And, Leach tried his heart out, man. He came on. I guess that's why they put him on the bench, just to kind of bring a bit of experience, bring that oomph. But Ireland just too good in the end, showing their class. Prendergast, when he came on, he really played well, saving a try and then setting up a few slick ones as well, in my opinion. A little bit of flick pass, stuff like that. So he's showing what he's made of, maybe coming off the bench, less pressure. But obviously against Japan, you can't really, I guess, count this too much because it's free-flowing rugby against Japan. You wouldn't play like that against, the All Blacks or something like that. So next game up, This is for the World Cup qualification, the final, the repechage as we all remember it, but the last pool to make the Rugby World Cup. Samoa versus Brazil, 48 points to 10 to Samoa in the end. I mean, I watched the highlights of this. It's one-way traffic, definitely pure and utter domination for me from the Samoans. Finally playing as they should, but yet again, a lot of mistakes. 15 turnovers by Brazil in this game. A lot of mistakes by them, but I guess it's the pace of the game. But it showed at the end there as well, the last 10 minutes, they had 63% of possession. So they really tried their heart out. They did. They left it out in the field. 48 points to 10 against Samoa is not a bad result for Brazil. Just an emerging rugby team. It's good to see that Brazil get to have these opportunities to try and grow the game in a massive, massive country. But Samoa, I guess if you're a Samoan fan, you're probably breathing a little bit easier. I know I've seen a lot of comments and messages from people with oh man, I'm stressing. If we lose to Brazil, game over. But did what they needed to do, got the 5 points. Now on to the next game as well. So next game in this round was an absolute cracker. There were obviously a couple other ones. As you can see here, obviously a lot of French games on the left of your screen, you can see it. But the All Blacks 15 versus England A, so pretty much New Zealand A versus England A, 31 points to 14. I watched a bit of that game because it was just before the All Blacks kicked off. Good game. I think a really, really good game. The All Blacks looked really good. I mean, David Havili, brilliant. I mean, if you watch that game, that long ball for a try in the corner, setting it up, that's, brilliant by him. But we'll go on to the next one. There was Uruguay versus Portugal. Portugal going in, I believe, halftime there with the lead, but losing in the end to Uruguay, the South American champions. Obviously, Argentina's not in there, but the Uruguay, the South American champions, beating Chile in the final, it was, to automatically qualify for the World Cup. 26 points to 8. Portugal were in it, man, that first half, but clinical by Uruguay, just showing the experience that they have. Romania versus Canada, the next game. Romania beating Canada. I thought it would be a closer game, but good performance by Romania at home. Away, it's a different story. I think Canada beat them last time. Then it comes up to Scotland versus New Zealand. 25 points to 17. This game could have gone either way. I remember, seeing a lot of comments from people and talking at halftime because I lived in New Zealand. So a lot of my friends, All Blacks going to smash them, whatever. 17-0, I believe it was at halftime. So for the Scots to come back, a lot of fight. I thought this might be their moment, man. 17 all. They had Satiti in the yellow card, so 14 versus 15. Sevilla got yellow carded. Carter got yellow carded. So 3 yellow cards, and they could not, it just, you could see in that game, I think they were pushing it a little bit too much. I think if they maybe just picked and go'd sometimes, where they tried to do, obviously if you watch the game, you would see like a Matt Ferguson coming off the back of the coming off the back of the ruck, but just trying to offload it like one-handed, or putting that person under pressure. You've seen it against Skuman, when Skuman was going for the try, late offload, not on, man. Darcy Ray, same thing, knocked it on. Just pick and go. You had the momentum, you had every single bit of momentum, and then Damien McKenzie, man. Wow. What a freaking performance. Literally, he didn't even play the whole game, and I still think he's man of the match. That's just the impact he had in that last 15 minutes. All the momentum was, as we know, going to Scotland. All the momentum constantly pretty much in New Zealand's half. Damien McKenzie comes up, 50-22. I mean, it was more like a 40-10, to be honest. Brilliant kick, gets it out 5 meters out. All Blacks are attacking the line, penalty. Suddenly they go wide with the advantage, and somehow McKenzie scores that try. I mean, he flicks off, man, his name is really evading me here, but Kinghorn, that's it. Just absolutely throws him pretty much what Kinghorn should have done to McKenzie. He fends off Kinghorn. Kinghorn just doesn't wrap. I don't know, doesn't make the tackle. We all know he's not a great defender. That is why he plays on the wing for Toulouse, but just gets thrown off, somehow falls backwards in the field of play, scores that try. I mean, absolutely brilliant. But the Scots put up a brave fight, but in the end, Damien McKenzie, man, that was the difference. Just big plays. And this is the reason why I think it's hard to start DMAC, because he is just so impactful when he comes off the bench. Gets the penalty kick as well, just to ice it. Brilliant kick by him as well. Yeah, brilliant game in the end, man. Really, really good game. I mean, as a Scot supporter, you'd still be disappointed. You had it there, but Russell goes off, still 15 versus 14 and just can't ice the game. So the streak continues for the All Blacks at Murrayfield. Maybe next time, but brilliant game of rugby to watch. 8 points in it. Shows either team could have won. Now, the next game of the round, game we all kind of knew the result, what it would be, but just by how much again. Fiji put up a great fight. 38 points to 18 to England over Fiji at Twickenham. You could see Fiji were leading for a bit. I mean, there were 17 minutes they were in the lead, but just couldn't, I guess, finish it, right? They looked good in a lot of phases, a lot of parts, but just couldn't keep that momentum going, I guess. I mean, it starts with Cowan Dickey of a try. Then the Fijians hit back with 2 quick tries, in the 9th minute, in the 21st minute, leading 12 points to 7. And then Waboso just scores just before halftime. And that's where I think it might have changed a lot of the game. Then Genge scores just after the half, starts really well. Ikanavere scores for the Fijians, making it 21 points to 18 to England. And then it just kind of, same thing again. We're seeing a bit of a trend in the last 20 minutes. The world-class teams, the last 20 minutes, they just finish better. You looked at that. If you watch the Springboks versus All Blacks in Wellington, the record-setting win for the Springboks versus the All Blacks, last 20 minutes, I think they scored 3 or 4 tries. Figures 4 tries they scored. And you can see here as well for England, I'll go down to it. You can see, George scores, Arundel scores, Itoje scores. So 3 tries to none in the last, 21 minutes. So I think that's the way it is. Momentum, rugby's never been such a momentum sport until now, to date, that I've seen. It's just crazy that teams can just put on the amount of points that they do so fast. Next game, Italy versus Australia. What upset of the round, right? Upset of the round right there. 26 points to 19. Finally, the Italians get another upset win outside of the Six Nations. Brilliant by them. I mean, Gabisi was brilliant for me. Penalties, man, just constant scoreboard pressure, keeping them within that reach just until the end of the game, right? Where you can see, so it starts with obviously Gabisi, penalty goal. Faceless scores, Bell scores. They look pretty dominant at this point. The Wallabies making the most of their chances. Gabisi keeps them in range again. Another penalty goal makes it 12 all. Carter Gordon, playing to the whistle. That's all that was. Playing to the whistle. Could have gone either way. I mean, the ref calls it a strip. Could have been a last touch by Harry Wilson for the Aussies. It's unfortunate. It's a ref's call. He sticks to it. Then Suali'i gets sent off for 10 minutes. Where, it changes the game there because they're already camped on their line. Now the yellow card on top. Linus scores. Gabisi gets it. And then Ioane, Digby Ioane's cousin, if you remember the great Wallaby winger, scores the try against Australia, having, I believe, grown up here as well in Australia. Brilliant finish by them. And then just holds on to win the game. It even shows possession last 10 minutes, Wallabies 62%. To just kind of push. But the Italians hold on. I think it's good for rugby. Really, really good for rugby that Italy can become stronger and stronger and keep upsetting these teams. I mean, they nearly beat, I think it was Ireland in the last Six Nations in Italy. Obviously on home soil, the Italians are a different team than what they are overseas. Showing that performance, I mean, in Juventus, if you remember last game they played against the All Blacks in Italy, very low scoring. Only All Blacks only beat them by about 10 or 12 points, whatever it might be. So in Italy, you can never write them off, man. Never, ever write them off. Now, the next game's obviously Springboks versus Paris. Oh, sorry, not Paris, versus France. Sorry. Everyone outside of Paris will probably hate me for that. But South Africa, 32-17. Dude, what a performance. As a Boks supporter, I did not expect this. I really didn't. I knew we would win by a right margin, I believe. I was thinking more about like 7 points, something like that. Right on the cusp of a late try, maybe a couple late penalties to put them in front. Pressure by the French to score, to win it at the end. That's what I thought it would be. But 32 points to 17, which is actually big as well, because, you know, winning by 15 or more gives you a couple extra little bit of points in the world rankings. Not that, you know, anyone cares, but just solidifies their spot at world number 1. And then the big one here is Lood de Jager, after 38 minutes, getting red carded, really shows kind of what was happening. Yeah, it's your own pick. Like, red card, I'm fine with it. Was it a 20-minute or full red? You pick and choose. But at the end of the day, I guess it doesn't really matter, because if the Boks lost, maybe a different story. You know, you'll hear a lot more uproar about it. But winning the game, it kind of just puts it under the hevel. I think it's a weird one, right? Because Ramos is pretty much on the ground, you know, gets smacked right in the face or shoulder. Everyone's saying, you know, he didn't try to wrap. He wasn't wrapping. But you could see Lood de Jager's arm is coming on the left around a little bit. But then Ramos's hand stops his hand from wrapping. So if you actually watch in slow motion, Ramos's hand is up. Lood de Jager's arm is coming around and it gets blocked. And then it pushes his arm down, which makes it look like he doesn't wrap it. So by the letter of the law, if there's no wrap, there's no mitigation. So the refs had to go, they seen it as no wrap, so there's no mitigation, so it has to be a straight red, because shoulder to the head contact, seeing as there's no mitigation. But if he was wrapping that low, yellow card, back again. And the funny thing is there was no going off or no check for a head knock for Ramos, which is a bit funny, because, you know, you'd think straight shoulder to the head would, I guess the doctors would be like, dude, you got to come off and do a head check. But it wasn't to be. So play on. Red card at the end of the day. And then Ramos comes on second half, you know, making it 17 points to 13. And that's where the game changed again. The last 20 minutes, the Boks just took over. BRBRA, it's not really his fault that the try was scored, you know, by Esterhuizen, because there was already a penalty advantage. So him getting the yellow for knocking the ball down in a try scoring opportunity, yellow card, not his fault that the try was scored, because Esterhuizen, they maul it over. And then Williams, you know, freaking heck, he's the man. Just such a fast number 9, dude. Just, if you give him that little bit of space, if you rush up in that line, he's through. Grant Williams is gone. Fastest dude in the Boks team. And then Feinberg and Gomezulu. Man, it's so hard not to talk this guy up. You know, so hard to not call him one of the best 10s in the world already, after just playing, you know, a few games for the Boks. But he's got all the makings of it. So let's just hope he stays healthy. Hope he just keeps working at his game. And, you know, keeps that humble attitude and doesn't let the game, you know, doesn't let his personality get bigger than the game, pretty much. But yeah, end of it, 4 tries to 2, Boks, 32 points to 17, you know, brilliant game. I wouldn't call it the game of the round, because I think that the All Blacks versus Scotland, to me, was the game of the round for me. 17 points to 0 down against the All Blacks, and then coming back to 17 all, and then that craziness by D-Mac just solidifying the game. You know, to me, that is the game of the round. But South Africa with the statement of the round, you know, being 14 players for over half of rugby to win the game, being down as well. I mean, down at that point, 14-13. It just shows this team has got a lot to go. You know, they got a lot to offer. And that was with, you know, all these old players everyone keeps talking about. You know, the Boks are old, you know, they're getting older and older, you know, they're not being able to do what they used to. It's like, dude, just keep looking at the proof. If you even look at the team from the box in this game, Boan Fenter is not crazy old. Malcolm Marx is getting on. Thomas Satoy is not too old. Evan Etzebeth is getting on, of course. Luit de Jager is getting older. Khaleesi, 30s. Peter Steph Toy in the 30s. Jasper Visa, a couple of years younger than them. Kobus Reinach is definitely, he's 35, but he's not showing his age. Then you got Ngoma Zulu, younger. Kirkley Arons, so they've got many years left. Dale Endick, Jesse Creel getting on. Colby as well. And Damien Villeneuve being a bit younger as well. So, but then you look at the bench coming on: Grobbelaar, Steenekamp, Vilko Low, Ron Kia, Ergies Neyman, Grant Williams, Mani Lubbock. These players got many, many years left. So the fruit's still there for the future generations. It's just about them keep blooding these new players in, right? But obviously the French, I'll be honest, the French were missing quite a lot of players in the forwards especially. So, you can't really take this as a big W because they were missing a lot of players. It was their first game back as a team against the Boks, who have obviously had the rugby championship. They've just been playing top 14 and second division rugby. So hard to compare. It'll be France in the next game where it'll really tell if they've gotten better or not. In the final game of the round, Argentina versus Wales. Sad to see that, Wales have not gotten any better, man. Just really not gotten any better. Maybe also being rusty, first game back. But yeah, being down and the other team is having more possession in the last 10 minutes is not a good sign. But, there's a fighting effort, 52 points to 28, very high scoring game. I mean, you'd be pretty happy if you went as a neutral fan to this game and watched this free-flowing rugby, points all along. 31-14, it really shows the last 10 minutes in the first half just really, I think, made the Welsh players drop their head a bit. It was, 14 all after 26 minutes, after 30 minutes, and then suddenly penalty, 2 tries, 2 late tries, and a try right on halftime as well, which was a brilliant freaking try. If you haven't watched it, man, go and check. Pablo Montero setting up the try for Carreras, straight off the kickoff, catching it, boom, running straight through, I think, like high school rugby defense, man. Absolutely crap defense by the Welsh. Lets Montero straight through off the kickoff. That's reserve grade in rugby, like club rugby, you expect that to happen. Straight through, does a kick to the corner for Carreras. He just speeds through, picks it up and scores a brilliant try. Still a great finish. I mean, he was tackled at the 5-meter line, somehow still flips around and scores it. Definitely worth watching this game. Yeah, but that was the nail of the coffin. Pablo Montero straight at the kickoff. You just can't do that as a team that wants to challenge the top 6, top 7 in the world. You can't do that, Wales, unfortunately. So they paid the price and they ended up losing, by 24 points, which is still a very big margin. But good for Argentina, keeping the momentum going. But the only thing is that depth for Argentina, which is the problem for me, is whenever they're not playing these top players, your Carreras, your Materas, these sorts of players, then, they do drop down quite a bit. And they're also getting on these kind of key players, but they do also have some young players coming through. And interesting, obviously, seeing Marcus Kramer in that second row. First time he's played second row in a while, I think. So hopefully they just keep building. I mean, few good games coming up. Let's have a little bit of a look at the games coming up in this next round. And another big one, sorry, to mention real quick, is Belgium beating Namibia, which I think is an upset, right? I don't know about you guys. I think Belgium beating Namibia in the Rugby World Cup qualifiers, that's a big win for Belgium. But it's also a bad look for African rugby, right? I mean, Namibia being second placed in the top division in Africa, losing to Belgium, who finished 5th in the European B Championship. So, finishing below Portugal, finishing below Spain, all these countries, and Namibia losing to them, yeah, not a great look for African rugby, right? And then also seeing Ireland A pumping Spain 61 points to 24. Also not a great look, man. But you can see with the rounds coming up, next game for the Rugby World Cup qualifiers, Belgium versus Brazil, which is a big one because if Brazil loses, they're gone, they're out. Good luck qualifying for the next Rugby World Cup. Belgium, if they win, bonus point as well. It's between them and Samoa, man. Them and Samoa will be the big one. And then you got Samoa versus Namibia as well. Then you got on Saturday, you got Georgia versus Canada, which I think, it's going to be a big game because Canada beat USA. Georgia only beat USA by 13. So it could be a great game to watch. I'm definitely going to be watching that. The first half at least, anyway, until the box kick off. So big game for Georgia. They need to win and they need to set a statement if they want to be, if they're going to show anything for the 2027 World Cup, they need to do it now. Italy, South Africa in Italy is going to be a good game. I think the squad will get rotated a bit. Let me know below if you agree as well, but I think Rusty's going to bring a few younger faces in to kind of just let them have that feel of that intensity and give these guys who just played against France, a grueling French, team, give them a bit of a rest, let them have a bit of a rest. Then you got another international, Romania, USA. I think it's going to be a brilliant game. I think it's going to be very tight. USA looking better and better after a poor performance in the Pacific Cup, beating Samoa though to qualify for the Rugby World Cup. And Romania is looking to kind of rebuild what they were. I mean, it wasn't long ago when I watched Romania versus Argentina in Romania and Argentina only winning it on the last play of the game. So, Romania can do it. They are a rugby stronghold. Let's just hope that they can build. Portugal versus Hong Kong. This is going to be interesting. Very, very interesting. So, Hong Kong just qualifying for their first ever Rugby World Cup, winning the Asia Cup, playing against Portugal, who got pretty much beaten quite well by Uruguay, but not looking out of place. So if Hong Kong can compete against Portugal, I think at least they're not going to get demolished in the World Cup. So it's going to be interesting to see that. England versus New Zealand, big, big game, man. This is a big game. England on a big winning streak. This is where England shows if they've actually gotten better, in my opinion. If they beat the All Blacks, it'll show that they're contenders and a very young team as well. The next Rugby World Cup, they're going to be a serious, serious threat, the dark horse, if they can beat the All Blacks. And if the All Blacks beat them, it just shows really that the top two teams in the world right now is again in the Southern Hemisphere. Wales, Japan, I think that's going to be a good game. Wales want some payback, obviously, for Japan beating them over in Japan. So Wales need to pull this back, man. If you lose against Japan, it really shows. If you lose in Wales at the Principality to Japan, it's really going to be a hard pill to swallow, dude. As a person who's always loved the Welsh team, well, they've always played brilliant rugby, great rugby nation. Hopefully you can't lose these, half supporters to football, because the Welsh team is doing better and better. France versus Fiji. Obviously the French will play. I think they'll make a couple changes to the team. Fiji, that could be the opportunity. If they can show aggression, physicality, they can get under this French team's skin, in my opinion, and maybe cause an upset. Now, Ireland versus Australia. Ireland probably licking their lips at this point, man. Probably licking their lips. Playing Australia after a loss against Italy. They're going to be hungry, but, it shows the weakness of Australia again. Great rugby championship, beating the Box over in South Africa, then just losing to them in the second game. Challenging the All Blacks in both games. Beating Argentina once, losing once. They lose to Ireland, obviously it'll show again. They are just a team that's challenging teams from 6 to 12 if they're not up for the games. So it's all about turning up and kind of showing what they got. And then you also got Spain versus England A, which I think will be a pretty good game. And then you got Scotland versus Argentina, which, this is the chance for Scotland. This is really the opportunity for Scotland to show that they're not just the only just losing team, that they actually can win games. And I think, this is getting to the end, man, of the coach's lifespan here. If he loses to Argentina, I think surely Scotland's got to hire someone new. Surely Scotland's got to move on from their current coach if he cannot beat nearly anyone in Scotland. If you can't challenge for the Six Nations with the team that he's got, if you can't beat Pumas in Scotland at Murrayfield, you know, there's a point where you got to go, we got to move on from this team. Like, there's a point. Because if England A can go and beat Argentina over in Argentina and Scotland can't beat them in Scotland, a change needs to be made, unfortunately. And then I think that might be the end of the round. Obviously, you got All Blacks 15 versus Uruguay as well, which I think is going to be a pretty cool game. I think it's in a neutral ground as well. So, yes, so it'll be in France. But yeah, I'm happy to see Uruguay play these games, and I'm happy to see the All Blacks 15 getting games, and that's where there might be a missed opportunity here for the Springboks A, you know, for the second Springboks team, is to be able to go and play against these smaller nations, you know, give teams like Chile could have been playing right now, the Netherlands, I mean, countries like this, they could be playing these games against the Springboks A team as well, which in reality would be like the Springboks third team because they got such a big squad, right? Yeah, missed opportunity for South Africa. I think New Zealand is really thinking ahead and thinking about building depth, especially with that tour, which has been announced in 2028, where the All Blacks are going to go over to South Africa, do kind of like a Lion-esque tour, where they're going to go play against the Super Rugby teams, when they're going to play against the Springboks 3 games. That is what I wish rugby will go back to, is these big tours where a country can come and tour. For example, how France went to New Zealand. Instead of just playing the All Blacks 3 times, go and play the Super Rugby teams, go and play like a Heartland team. You know, go and play these smaller teams, take over a big squad, and it'll create depth for the French, and it will also give opportunities for more people to go and watch rugby as well during the week, you know, the midweek game against a B team sort of thing. But yeah, missed opportunity for South Africa. Super excited to see these games. And people go, you know, as much as they want, especially in Australia. You know, there's the rugby doubters, the rugby haters, just because the Wallabies are not doing great, just because rugby league is such a big sport here. You know, it's uncomparable. You can't look at a rugby league tournament or anything and go, oh yeah, there's 12, 13, 14 countries who can beat each other. It's just not happening. It's Australia who can get upset every now and again by New Zealand, or England possibly, which is not the case at the moment. The rest of the teams, yeah, it's pretty much a whitewash, man. But I'll end it on that. Let me know the predictions. Let me know what you thought about the games. What does this mean, man? What does this mean for Northern Hemisphere rugby? You know, obviously Australia choking. Not a good thing for the Southern Hemisphere. You know, we can't really compare Fiji, but it shows 3-1 at the moment to the Southern Hemisphere, you know, the rugby championship teams. 3-1 against the Six Nation team. So be interesting to see next week where it is, Argentina, Scotland. So that'll be a contentious one. South Africa, Italy, obviously, we fairly know what that result will be unless there's a big upset. New Zealand, England, you know, these sorts of games. Ireland, Australia. So it's going to be interesting to see the Six Nations battle versus the Rugby Championship. But thanks for watching anyway. Hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.